The way you're going to play Hearts of Iron 4 is changing forever. Factions are getting reworked. Now, we looked at that in a previous dev diary. If you want to check that one out, look on the channel. However, this one is the spicy one. We're going to dig into the more details of what the faction dynamics are going to be. And in short, factions have goals, missions, objectives, quests, you could say, that they want to achieve. And with those set number of rules, factions can be customized based upon if you have enough clout within that faction. However, with one rule, there is always another rule, and these rules are what we're going to talk about today. This is a development corner, not a dev diary, meaning it is more of a brief summary of things that are expected to come in the future. They may not look this way in the final version. They are still a work in progress. The last dev diary was a lot more broad. This dev corner is going to be a little bit more focused to dig deeper into those faction mechanics. Faction rules are set around a theme. We want the goals that are more or less strategic in nature and should bring courage to act, and to act in a way that makes it more sense according to the theme, whatever that's possible. So think of a faction to have a theme. Allies, more liberation. Axis, more conquest of resources. Stuff like that. Be aware, some of the placeholder elements of the UI are, well, placeholders, meaning they're not finished. They're still a work in progress. Let's start out with the Axis. Germany starts as the leader of the Axis. Nothing new there. There are two major powers in the Axis, Germany and Italy. It's about conquest and expansion. Surprise. Shock face. How do we measure conquest then? In the HOI4 teams, it's probably the amount of controlled territory that is outside of your core nation. I feel like there's many ways you can manipulate that base concept. Some of the bonuses you get from high fulfillment of the manifest then also relate back to the conquest of territory, like non-core manpower and resistance to occupation. So a basic bonus that would be rewarding as the player would be when you occupy a set number of territory, you get a reduction to overall resistance. Maybe the people feel intimidated because you have conquered so much land and therefore you are an enemy to not be messed with. Then top it off as well, maybe you get compliance bonuses in certain regions. Very helpful for the Axis. But then, as it mentions here, non-core manpower. Germany runs into this problem, and Italy as well, kind of more mid to late game, where you run out of core manpower and you need to push into conscription laws that have more negative modifiers, such as service by requirement. So getting more manpower out of those territories is going to be useful. So here's the faction breakdown. We have the FPP, which is your faction political power. You've got the members of the faction. You have the objective of the faction, which you can see here is conquest and domination. We have a supreme leader, which kind of looks like a general. And it's even got the general stats too. I wonder how this plays a part in the overall goal. Maybe they get XP, who knows? You can invite countries, view the member list, and then look at the actual goals. So we have secure the resources, SU. ... European Bastion, Secure North Africa, an Armored Fist, and the North Atlantic. All of these are really cool because they're kind of about conquest of certain regions and acquiring resources. I don't like this one, Armored Fist. It implies making, I don't know, a set number of tank divisions or mobile divisions, and it feels railroady that, like you have to kind of play the way the devs intended. But these ones feel more, I don't know, generic conquest anyway, but this one feels more railroady. I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. And at the bottom, we've got rules here, research, armed forces, industry, intelligence. There's even tabs on factions, which is a surprise. The faction window, no, it won't look like this when it's ready. So objectives, and here is the faction specific rule. So it looks like when you're in the German faction, there is a manpower contribution requirement that you must fulfill. And there's a rule for call to war. It may be that maybe other factions members other than the leader can't declare wars, which wouldn't be true if you think about it, because Italy declared their own war against Greece while being in the Axis. So that wouldn't be true. Maybe you have to be a major power to declare wars. That would make sense, actually. That would be a cool rule, too. It's kind of annoying when a minor power declares their own little war, isn't it? When they're a member of your faction. Surely they need to get approval from their daddy, wouldn't they, you know? Please, Mr. Germany, let me declare war. In summary, secure resource supply. Faction members control resources enough to ensure that they can be at war with the world at some time. European Bastion. European continental countries either join your faction or capitulate to become part of you. Secure North Africa. Control key areas and you're on your way. North Africa is to ensure the safety of the core Axis territory of continental Europe. This one's a biggie because I've said this many times before. Why care about Africa? End of the day, man, the only reason you're German, you care about Africa, is it will make sure that Italy is, I don't know, more frequently naval invaded if you lose, let's say, Libya, for instance. Armored Fist. Deploy a number of armor divisions. You are ready to take on anyone who oppresses your expansion. I don't like this one. It should just be like a certain number of divisions over a certain size. Just army size overall. And the North Atlantic. Stop enemies from gaining control of the North Atlantic in order to disrupt or attempt to block you from world trade and disable support for enemies in Europe. You know, these rules are very vague, aren't they? You know, you feel like, I don't know, there's so much up to interpretation. The only one that's very obvious is number of armored divisions. I suppose what it would define as an armored division is important, isn't it? Is it set number of armor on the division itself? Is it the hardness of the division? I don't know. But regardless, a lot of these are very open to interpretation. Be aware these are early days. They're still a work in progress, hence the reason why they're so vague. What about Japan? Japan? So let me close my eyes. What would Japan's objectives be? Subdue China. Get access to steel, aluminium, rubber, and maybe even oil, and securing those set resources. The question I have with this is that these goals are really nice and they give you an objective, a direction to go with your faction, but what am I actually gaining for faction objectives? You know, I need to be rewarded as the player to incentivize that actual behavior, don't I? The manifest is about securing vital resources. Goals revolve around ensuring that it's possible and securing those necessary puppet countries. Okay, so you're incentivized to make puppets, I presume. Also, coastal security, secure the oil supply, align China, puppet China, basically. These days, I never puppet China because I always feel like I can control the territory more. I feel like it feels more rewarding to paint them out with your color and have those resources for you. Anyway, regardless, this is the faction name, which I hate the name of, by the way. Let me rename the faction, please, Paradox. We have the leader, which has got the democratic flag of Japan. Interesting. Supreme leader, secure the supplies. Oh, here we go. Coastal security. You must have naval dominance in these sea regions. And the effect is you gain 1 faction initiative points, 500 faction PP, and you gain 50 naval XP. Okay, so to do something that requires naval experience rewards you with naval experience. I would like if it give you some kind of temporary bonus to naval dominance in these set regions, maybe, but then you already control them. You're giving yourself something you've already got. It's kind of difficult to what the rewards are going to be for this, because sometimes if the rewards are not worth pursuing, it makes me question, like, well, why should I even bother doing them? I like the idea of direction, but the rewards need to be fulfilling enough for me to actually want to achieve them. Finally, the allies. We need to be the guardians of peace, the artilleries of trade. I feel like I want to read Artrades. Got Dune in my brain. The atomic race and the imperial glory. Focus on a certain dominance of critical sea zones. Ensure world peace, which is incredibly vague. Atomic, ensure no one gets the atomic bomb before you do. It's kind of a hard one now, because if someone does get it, does that become null and void? And keep key parts of the colonial empires under your control, even in times of war. Oh, that's a good one. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Once again, give me an incentive to hold colonies. Give me a reason to actually want to hold on to them. Because otherwise, I don't really care about Central Africa as Britain, you know what I mean? There's no resources there for me to care about. In all fairness, in a lot of games, I kind of ignore Ethiopia as Britain because I'm like, what difference does it make if I lose it? Who cares? So it looks like they're going to break down. There's a contest between Stalin and Trotsky when it comes down to the faction goals. It doesn't go into depth of what it means, but the Trotskyists were more about spreading communism worldwide more passively than the Stalins were more totalitarian. It was almost like spreading communism through might and forcefully converting. So I presume that's the path they're going to take with that, but that's not been done yet. It's still early days. Also, the Chinese United Front is a very interesting one because it's very regional and it's specifically less World War II-esque. It's more about defending, liberating, and unifying China. Be interesting to see if some of these goals can be created by the player. I imagine they'll be moddable, won't they? But it will give lots of flexibility for goals. Certain nations, for instance, let's say in Kaiserreich, they need goals and objectives, and you have to read the tooltips to know which direction to go. With these specific faction goals now, you can specifically steer that nation in the direction you want to take it. I don't know, this is a heyday for modders, isn't it? I feel less compelled by this if you are just conventionally playing HOI4, because a lot of the time when I play HOI4, I'm kind of doing these objectives anyway, unless I'm playing glitchy, exploity stuff and stuff. We would like feedback on dev corners. They're talking about me again? They're always talking about me. Every time I read one of these, there's always talking about feedback. What is that all about? So reserved for developer replies, and they don't seem to give any replies since the beginning of July. Can you play as the Governor General of Chosun and the Governor General of Taiwan? Oh, here we go. He spotted this. Well spotted. The General Government of Cho. Comment below, boys. What do you think that's going to be? Korea mentioned. There is one theme of HOI4 DLCs that does get under my skin a little bit, is where they make up another puppet state independent from the very beginning of the game. which is okay. I understand if you're Korean, you want to play Korea at the start of the game. I get that. But have it not have a focus tree just feels a bit empty for me. Do you remember the Near East? Like Palestine, Jordan, Syria. All these nations got released in the last DLC. But they didn't serve any structure or purpose because none of them had national focus trees. They were just sidelined on to be a part of Iraq's conquest ambitions, which I don't know, just kind of bugged me a little bit. I feel like you're making this area of the world very busy and complex with not really adding anything to it. So, I mean, if they're adding Korea as a national focus tree, I'm like, ooh, I'm excited for that. Korean national focus? Exciting. But if they're just going to release Korea as just another nation you can click at the start of the game, then I'm like, boo. What I do normally at this point is I look through all the dev replies and give more texture and information about certain elements that mention this dev diary, but the devs have not replied to any of the messages in this one. They just made a mention that they're going to read the dev diary replies, but there wasn't any ones to follow up with, which is kind of a little bit disappointing. Faction goals are going to add extra texture, and I think the fans are really going to love it. I'll be honest with you, I think you guys are going to absolutely adore the idea of having actual direction to go as. However, I would like to see the rewards be fulfilling and specifically tailored to certain nations. Just giving me a bunch of points for free just feels a little bit underwhelming, unless it's a certain nation that lacks a certain points. Let's say you're playing as France, you have no political power, or USA, and your missions give you political power to achieve your destination. Remember, always give the points rewarded based on what the player specifically needs. If you cap to 2,000 political power as Germany, giving you extra political power when you need it the most is not really going to help you. Once again, play it more of a computer game aspect where give the player resources they specifically need. And of course, modders are going to absolutely love this and adore this because this is modding. This might actually give me more incentive to play more total conversion mods like Kaiserreich, with actual proper faction goals and objectives. I feel like I'm going to feel a little bit less like a headless chicken when I play these nations and be like, what am I meant to do? What's the objective? And with an actual faction goal, I can kind of get a bit of a zoom back and look at the big picture and be like, that's where I'm heading. YouTube has a problem. It means you're not getting these videos. If you want YouTube to recommend this kind of content to you, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube video. And if you want to be super special, hit the bell icon as well. Meaning in future, if you're not getting these videos, YouTube will give more of this to you if you interact with this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I love you. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.